Hello, I'm Pamela, CMO at Aira. Welcome to today's event. Thank you for joining us here at the Epicenter in Stockholm, and thank you to everyone joining us on our broadcast across Europe. Today, it's so exciting to reveal Vargas's fourth venture and what we believe the next revolution for residential heating, and we call it Aira. Joining me on stage shortly is Harald, Chairman of Vargas, and Martin Lewerth, CEO of Aira. But before we start, we have an important message from the Swedish Prime Minister.
We are approaching the end of the Swedish presidency of the European Council. Sweden took over the presidency at a time when the Union faced unprecedented challenges. We stated from the beginning that our aim for the presidency was to make Europe safer, greener and freer. A big part of this was reaching an agreement on the big European climate package, Fit for 55. Many jokes can be made about its name, but the purpose of the package is no laughing matter. The legislations in the package put EU at the forefront in fighting climate change and providing a long-term framework and tools for European businesses and households to lower their emissions. Sweden has long been a big supporter of the emissions trading system, a market-based framework that has delivered impressive results in lowering the emissions in several key sectors. It's therefore very good news that we now are including more sectors, road transports and buildings, including residential heating. Basically, this is putting us on a path towards net zero emissions. Being on our way to reach a deal on the Fit for 55 package is good news for our climate and for the environment. But it's also good news for European businesses. We see that companies at the forefront in providing climate-smart products and services have a competitive advantage. The future is with these pioneers. I am therefore proud to be the Prime Minister of a country that has many frontrunners. We know for a fact that Swedish companies not only lower Sweden's emissions, but also through exports help to lower emissions in the EU and globally. Today's good news is that we now have another company invested in being part of the solution in reaching net zero emissions. And we need even more of this mindset if we're going to succeed in the necessary climate transition.
Ulf, appreciate that. He couldn't be here in person, unfortunately. He is hosting the National Climate Day today, so I think he has around 300 people, and I need to be there in an hour. But very, very happy to be here, and probably talk about the most secret that probably hasn't been a secret for a long time. And I'm actually pretty amazed that this has not been told before. But as I think as Ulf was saying, residential heating is an enormous area of both opportunity, from a business point of view, but from a climate point of view, I actually think about it as being kind of a bit of a silver bullet. Households actually emit twice as much as your car. And at the same time, there's a very simple solution to it. You can actually eliminate it tomorrow. And it's basically to introduce heat pumps, which we basically did in Sweden going back to the 1990s. So I guess what we want to do is really take the Swedish example and then turbocharge it. And I'm the chairman of Vargas. Vargas is an investment holding company controlled by myself and Kalle Lagercrantz. And I guess what we do is really try to build businesses from ground up, to decarbonize the planet. And we do it in a very systematic way. We kind of look at opportunities, we identify them, we spend a lot of time kind of validating sort of in stealth mode. And then when we're ready, we finance and launch, and we build a team around it. And I guess we've done it with Polarium, which is actually going to be a key partner providing residential batteries as part of the solution. Northvolt is providing the cells that goes into the batteries. That's going to be part of the solution. And finally, H2 Green Steel can provide green steel that we can actually produce the products from. So it's all hanging together. And the idea really came about, when we were looking at this framework. This is basically a map of the European emissions. And with cars, it's basically eliminating tailpipe emissions through batteries as a solution. Iron and steel, H2 green steel, is basically introducing hydrogen as a substitute for coking coal into that process. But then, as you can see, this residential heating chart representing roughly 10% or almost 400 million tons, really piqued our interest. And we started to double click, why is that? Because in Sweden, interestingly, the number is only 1%. So we think that residential heating is really a forgotten problem in Europe, and it's unsolved. But at the same time, as I said, it's a major source of emissions. It's 5 times cement, it's 2.5 times steel. As I said, it's almost as much as your passenger car, and it's a big part of public electricity production. So if you put it all together, it's almost 15%. But what's interesting, and what really started this project is this map. And this is looking at, emissions across Europe. And what you see is that, the Scandinavian countries is at 1%. Rest of Europe, and these are direct emissions. So a place like UK, for instance, 16%, which basically means that, 98% of all heating systems sold in the UK is still a gas boiler. And at the same time, where's the gas coming from? It's coming from Russia. And it's a huge part of the, what's coming from there. So then we said, why is that? And, as I said, the gas boiler is called the enemy. But what's happening, and what's different? But what we really started to do was to look into the entire value chain. Martin's going to talk more about this. And what's interesting is that, the cost to a consumer typically could be anywhere from 15,000 to 20,000 euros, for an installation. But interestingly, the product itself, the cost of goods sold represents, 25–30%. So it's a very inefficient way of getting to the end consumer. And, being large owners at Altor, for instance, in Svea Solar, which has basically been developed into direct-to-consumer channel, we think that this business is really ready to actually build a direct-to-consumer brand, connecting, each customer directly to the product itself. Because we think now is the time to act. The planet is on fire. I think most people, agree to that. There still are a few deniers out there. Energy supply and security, the terrible situation in Ukraine, and dependence on Russian gas. It's doing two things. I think it's highlighting that, you can't really rely on it. And at the same time, it's also really pushing up, household bills for consumers. So today, a typical household in the UK probably spending roughly £2,500 on heating. And, together with also the fact that, the electricity bill, household electricity bill, it could mean that those, bills have basically doubled over the years. So we think that this is really creating, a lot of momentum. So this is what we want to do.
The world is in the midst of an energy crisis and a climate change emergency. In a modern, developed society, it's hard to believe that residential heating is the third largest contributor of CO2 emissions across Europe. And hundreds of thousands of families are struggling to pay their gas bills. We believe burning fossil fuels is an outdated solution. We need fresh thinking today for a brighter future. Change is in the air with the power of air. We are Aira. We exist to make a meaningful difference in the world, to unleash and harness the power of air, to accelerate a new era of clean energy tech for every home. We think it's time everyone was given the tools they need to make a difference. With over 100 million homes heat pump ready, we empower people across Europe to join the clean energy revolution, transforming sustainable climate technology into beautifully designed products with extraordinary service. At Aira, we create an affordable and intelligent clean energy tech ecosystem for every home. So you can master the elements and tap into the clean, free energy that's all around you. Aira is a future-proof solution, lowering heating-related costs by 30% and eliminates CO2 emissions with fossil fuel-free energy generation. The power to change our future is here.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Martin, CEO of the new venture Aira. Good to see so many people here. We now heard Harald talk about one of Europe's greatest challenges, the high dependency and usage of fossil fuels for our residential homes. The good news is there is a very simple solution to that problem, electrification. And more to that, when we solve that problem, consumers will save significant amounts of money on their energy bills. And it's all based on readily available technologies. So that's a very great start for this problem. And today we are very excited to share our plans on Aira and how we are tackling the forgotten problem of residential heating. We are introducing a new direct-to-consumer brand that dramatically will accelerate the electrification of residential heating and really drive the energy revolution for homes in Europe. With Aira, we are providing households access to energy tech solutions that will dramatically reduce their CO2 emissions. We're going to look at the numbers later, and save large amounts on consumers' energy bills. And our solution is available for everyone for a monthly affordable fee. There's no need for any upfront payments, so consumers, they will save from the very first day. And our company is built around the unique vertical integration, ensuring a simple and hassle-free consumer experience and combined with an ambitious industrial strategy. And our mission is to make sure that clean energy tech becomes available for all European homes. If we start to look a bit about the products that we are having, our starting point to accelerate this transformation is to use an intelligent heat pump at the heart of what we do. And the most energy consuming activity any household has is heating. So that's a good starting point. Our emissions from heating is around 40% of what the household emits. It's twice as much as the passenger cars that we use in our families. And thereby, it is also the most impactful change a household can make. But there is more to that. We are building the ecosystem of the future of home energy for consumers. If a consumer adds a battery, you can actually start to store energy for your home when the electricity tariff is low, and obviously use that when the tariff is high. The same can be done with a heat pump. A heat pump and a house is a huge thermal storage. And you can charge that thermal storage when the prices for electricity is low. And the great thing is, if you start to combine different components of energy technology, adding a heat pump and a battery and your home solar system, you will see great savings. Adding the heat pump truly unlocks the full potential of home solar systems. The self-consumption from that solar system will double, meaning that you will not have to buy as much energy from the grid. And all of this is managed through the Aira app, making a simple, hassle-free and highly personalized savings experience for households. The good thing and exciting thing with this energy transition is it will save consumers money. This is not a transition that will cost consumers money. If we just start to look at heating, that's a tremendous opportunity for households moving from a gas boiler to an electric heat pump to save energy. If you take a typical Italian household, you will reduce your energy consumption with 75%, no more gas bills, and instead the consumer will buy a small amount of electricity, meaning that the consumer will save up to 40% on the utility bill. And even taking into consideration the cost for installing and getting a heat pump in place, the end user will save more than 30% on their energy costs. So they're quite dramatic. And it gets even better. The more energy tech you get, the more add-ons you do, the more you will save, and the less you will emit. So in 10 years' time, a large share of European homes, they will have heat pumps, they will have batteries, and they will have home solar panels, EV chargers. And that, all in all, will be able to make us save half of our energy costs as consumers. So quite amazing. Let's talk about the heat pump magic. A gas boiler, you burn fossil fuels to generate heat. A heat pump, you use a small amount of electricity to extract energy from the outdoor air. It sounds as magic, but it really works. 1 kilowatt of energy results in more than 4 kilowatt of heating power. So this means that the heat pump is 4 times more efficient than a gas boiler, meaning that you use 75% less energy and thereby cut your CO2 emissions instantly with at least 75% or even more when we get more and more renewable electricity in the grid. And the best thing of it all is heat pumps, they are easy to install for most households. They provide a better comfort, they save consumers money, and they require no lifestyle changes. Super easy to adopt and use. So despite the obvious benefits of switching from a gas boiler to heat pump, the adoption rates so far are far, far too low in Europe. Single-digit numbers. And unfortunately, they continue to be low. Every year, millions of gas boilers break and are unfortunately replaced with a new gas boiler instead of a heat pump. Exception being Scandinavia, penetration levels are very high. If we take Sweden as an example, around 60% of households, they have one form of a heat pump. And if you replace your heating system in Scandinavia, 100% today install a heat pump. So why is that? There is a number of historical inhibitors in this industry. First of all, we have had artificially low gas prices. In some countries, the taxation on electricity is actually higher than the total cost of gas. That does not foster the right behavior among consumers, resulting in a very low awareness in the market. And there has been the worry of high upfront costs. But Europe is waking up, and change is about to happen. First of all, there is a sense of urgency for the climate. Bans are coming in place, making it impossible to install new fossil-based heating systems in new builds and in the near future also in existing homes when you're replacing a broken heating system. But that is supported by generous subsidies in most European countries. The energy crisis is also real. From the political side, everyone is trying to find out how to break the dependency on foreign gas. And all alternatives are generating more electricity, meaning that it will be not possible to use that energy fueling your heat pump. And consumers, if awareness used to be a problem, I think we all know what the energy prices were last winter. Consumers are really trying to find what are great solutions to reduce our cost of energy. And also the energy security, how to get off gas before the next winter starts. And finally, with Aira and our monthly service fee, we are also removing the need for the high upfront cost. And as Harald said, typically the cost of a heat pump installed and ready in Europe is between 15,000 and 25,000 euro today. So a subscription model really helps the customer. What is unique with Aira is our high degree of vertical integration. We develop our own products. And as a direct consumer brand, we design our products with the end user in mind. We also design them for quick and simple installation and for large-scale manufacturing. Which brings me to the next area. We are establishing our own gigascale heat pump factory as we speak. We are developing our own sales force. We want to provide consumers with a consistent high-quality experience and really teach the consumer, bring the awareness up. In order to achieve what we want to do, really drive and accelerate decarbonisation at a great scale, we need thousands of clean energy technicians in Europe to really make this happen. So we're building our own installation force, setting up our own Aira training academies across Europe, making sure that we can retrain and upskill existing gas boiler engineers to be great heat pump installers and ambassadors. We are providing consumer financing solutions. It's going to be more and more important in the future. If you have a heat pump, a solar panel, and a battery to save money, it's a hurdle to get in there. Consumers will probably have to spend 40,000-50,000 euro in today's landscape, and providing an affordable solution to get into that solution, it's important. And finally, we are not a product company. We are really a service company, building a long-lasting relationship with our customers, with our subscription model, and providing a lifetime warranty on the products and a comfort guarantee. And comfort guarantee is important since awareness is low and people are questioning if it works. If you come from Scandinavia, it's quite funny. The penetration is the highest in the most harsh climate zone in Europe. So of course, it works perfectly well also for the rest of Europe. With Aira, we are creating a distinct consumer brand, and it's built on our Scandinavian heritage, and it will provide a superior experience in every single touch point with the consumers. If we look at the market, I mean, it is a fact. It's a structurally high growth market. The energy transformation, it is happening without any doubt. There are strong regulatory tailwinds. There is rising consumer awareness, and consumers have a great ability to save significant amounts on their energy bills. So this is going to happen. And the size of this market is simple to calculate that. Every year, many millions, maybe 7 million gas boilers, they break and they are being replaced. And we think by 2030, at least 10 million heat pumps will be installed. It must be installed every single year. And if you do the math, the size just of the heat pump market is enormous. And if you start to think about the full energy system for consumers in the future with batteries, solars, EV chargers for our electric vehicles, the size and the growth of these markets is really impressive. We are today announcing our plans with Aira, but Aira has actually been a well-kept secret for more than a year. And today, Aira is made up by more than 200 employees and counting, growing for every single week. And we are spread across 5 territories to date. We are headquartered in Sweden, where we do a lot of the tech and product development work. In Poland, we are establishing our own gigafactory, and we have teams on the ground in our initial launch market, Italy, Germany, and UK. And during the fall, we are launching in these 3 initial markets, but our ambitions are much bigger. Within a decade, Aira will be present in more than 20 European countries. And to achieve this, we need thousands of clean energy technicians to deliver and install our heat pumps. And we will serve more than 5 million homes. And the CO2 reduction serving 5 million homes is equivalent of taking 10 million passenger cars off the streets. And if you like to make comparisons, I think you can make a comparison with another impact builder, Tesla. Since their inception, they have so far delivered and sold 2.5 million electric vehicles. So I think you just get the feeling for the impact we can do in this space, really trying to decarbonize our households, the single most important area. I already mentioned that we are establishing our own gigafactory in Poland, and it will be a key pillar for our strategy. And we are really proud today to announce that we are working in very close collaboration with the Volvo Group about the transition of one of their factories into a state-of-the-art heat pump factory. And this will be the manufacturing hub for Aira in Europe. And with that, I would like to show a movie with a greeting from Peter Prem, our head of supply chain, being on site in Wrocław, Poland. So let's run the movie.
Hi, my name is Peter Prem, and I'm the Chief Product Supply Officer at Aira. My team and I are responsible to bring those amazing products that our customers love to their homes with high quality and on time. That journey begins here at our new production site in Wrocław, Poland, where I am right now. I'm really excited to bring you on a quick tour of this site to show you what's happening now and what will be happening in the future. The very first step is here in this production hall, where we will start building the first generation of Aira products that's a part of this amazing clean energy tech ecosystem. We chose this site in Wrocław, which is a manufacturing powerhouse of Poland, not only for the well-maintained buildings and a lot of critical equipment that we can use, but most importantly for the talented people that work here. These are automotive industry experts that can be quickly retrained to making heat pumps for our clean energy tech ecosystem of the future. Our very first team members are already here on site, setting things up and getting things running. We're also recruiting more people to help us rapidly grow and transform the site. In this way, our production site in Wrocław embodies a new green European industry, helping to accelerate the decarbonization of homes all across Europe. In fact, we calculate that by producing heat pumps on this site, we will reduce 80 times more emissions than converting this entire factory to electric vehicles. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this quick tour. Really exciting times here in Wrocław. The whole Aira team and I are excited to be part of this decarbonization journey. And I really hope to welcome you here soon at this factory.
Yeah, that was Peter. Not only great in supply chain and production, also a great star performing. It's fantastic. I've been down there in Poland myself, met the team. It's really a great opportunity, and we are very happy that we can do something good when Volvo is changing that. So that's perfect. Before we end today's presentation, I want really to summarize and make sure that you bring 3 takeaways with you. And firstly, Aira, we are really taking on Europe's forgotten emitter, and we really want to be a catalyst to accelerate the energy transformation that has gone far too slow. And heat pumps is the most efficient and affordable way to decarbonize European homes. I can't find any other more efficient and affordable solution to do that. Secondly, the timing is right. Europe is awakening. There are strong regulatory tailwinds, and there is a rising consumer awareness. And thirdly, heat pumps is just the beginning of Aira and our journey. We will provide consumers with more intelligent and innovative energy solutions, and we will make sure that this becomes accessible and affordable for every home with our subscription model. So it's saving consumers' pockets, and it will save the planet. So with that, I really want to thank you all, and I will hand over to Pamela.
Thank you, Martin. Great. That was absolutely fantastic, and it's such a delight to hear both of you coming to talk to us today about the launch of Aira. So now it's time for our Q&A session, and I'm sure there are questions in the room. So if you do have a question, please raise your hand, and we will come round with a mic. I think, yeah, Amina's there with our mic. And also, if you're online, you can submit a question in the chat box, which is just underneath the screen there. So I'm just going to have a quick look here. So maybe we'll start. I have one question here from Eric. Maybe this is a good question for both of you, actually.
Okay.
What sets your company apart from other industry players?
I think the big difference is that if you look in this space, I mean, there are a few. You have sort of the incumbent players that typically manufacture and then they distribute through wholesalers, installers, etc. And then there are a few challengers. So if you take someone like Octopus Energy in the UK, 1,5. But I think what sets us apart is really that we're looking at this in terms of a total vertical integration. And that's really how we saw it from the beginning. We could see that it's only by controlling the entire value chain that we think that you can maximize also the design of the product, how you manage it, but I guess also importantly, capture an important part of the margin in the activity. And that kind of allows you to really build, I think, the strongest possible company long term.
I can just add to that. If you look at today's industry, it's great players in every single step, but the whole process from product manufacturing to the end consumer is a bit disconnected. I think in order to connect everything, we are really taking that direct to consumer end-to-end responsibility. And yes, there will probably be others doing the same, but the industry needs new challengers doing this in a very different way. And I think that makes us truly different compared to how it looks today.
I think the other difference is also when you look at the product development side, there's roughly 100 people that have been working on this. But if you look at the split between sort of hardware competence and software, I think we are 70% software, 30% hardware. And that's really to develop the connected system that allows you also to turn your heating system basically into a virtual power plant. And with more renewables coming into the grid, with solar, with wind, etc., there's a need to also be able to balance the grid. And having then, a heat pump is actually a way you can actually, do load shift and basically help to also avoid, additional investments in the future in the infrastructure.
Great, thank you.
And also consumer experience, user experience, which, I don't know, some of you probably own a heat pump, but it's not the most consumer friendly, trying to figure out how it works. Like you're scared to death, you're going to turn it off if you use the wrong button.
Great. Lots of questions coming in here, so I'll just take one quickly. Perhaps it's great for you, Martin. It's from Ian. He asks, how will you tackle the skills challenge to build the installer workforce you're going to need?
Yeah, a very good question. I think the installer community is going to be absolutely critical to make this happen. But the good thing is there are hundreds of thousands of skilled engineers in the market today working with gas boilers. Take UK. Germany, 400,000 people working with gas boilers. It's a sunset business. This is about making sure that we can upskill people working with gas boilers, working with heat pumps. It's about creating a company which can attract talent and really develop people. So we are not worried about access to talent. It's up to us to make sure that we can provide training to people in our own Aira academies across Europe.
Great, thank you, Martin. I just wanted to give a chance for anybody in the room. If there was a question, maybe you'd like to raise your hand. If not, I have plenty here, but great. Just the mic's coming round. Thank you. If you could say your name.
My name is Mikael Karlsson, and I'm from Energiforsk here in Sweden. And my question is, how do you look at district heating cooling as a competition? Because both in Fit for 55 and Repower Europe, there is a lot of talk about district heating for densely populated residential areas. Is it something to work with, or is it an enemy?
I think actually district heating, I guess, is not the main enemy, but it's interesting. I think we are increasingly seeing people disconnecting from district heating because of cost. So I think actually there's actually something going that way as well.
Last 2 years, district heating have been not shrinking. It's
but I think you should say.
There is a lot of flexible solutions between.
No, but I think between the two, when we did the original analysis, was basically looking at how do we decarbonize, and essentially, as you say, the two solutions were heat pump penetration and district heating. But at the same time, when you look at sort of the infrastructure requirements of like building out district heating, if you travel around Stockholm, it's impossible. It's like they're digging everywhere. So I think the pure cost investment of district heating, I don't think is, I think it's much, much cheaper to basically do what we're doing, because at the same time, also adding the benefits of controlling each house, and then using that to also support the grid. So I'm not a district heating killer, but I do think that we are seeing actually disconnections.
But I can comment a bit on that as well. I think you're talking maybe also about, yes, there are people for buildings or larger complexes with central heating. Yes, you can do central systems for those. We are really targeting the detached and semi-detached houses in Europe. And depending on country, but approximately 50% of Europeans, they live in a detached or semi-detached house. And that's really our sweet spot. And those houses are today far beyond district heating and will probably remain that for cost reasons for many, many years. So I think, like in everything, there is not a single solution. All initiatives are welcome and very important. So this is our segment that we are focusing.
And it's a huge segment.
It is enormous.
Large enough.
Thank you for that question. I have a question here from Anne-Marie. The UK has a large stock of old Victorian houses, which gas engineers currently say won't heat the houses as efficiently as gas boilers. How will your heat pumps change this?
I think maybe Martin, but I think that it was a quote from gas engineers.
Yeah, a quote from gas engineers, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly, and that sort of
And thank you for that framing, actually. It is actually true. There is a lot of myths. And I'm going back to what I said before. In the most harsh climate zone in Europe, everyone has a heat pump. So it works quite well. We know it, who have it. And it is true that not every single household is, heat pump ready. I think that goes with everything. Not everyone can install an EV charger, depending on where you live. That's a fact. But when we do our analysis, and then if you talk with the industry in general, around 70% of Europe's household stock is already heat pump ready. And houses, they are continuously refurbished. You make a major refurbishment every 20th, 30th year. And of course, more and more households will be heat pump ready over time. And that's okay. For us, we don't have to target 100% today. We can be really good in making sure that we work with those who are qualified to have our products.
Okay, next question from Philippa. Will you be targeting commercial accommodation such as office buildings?
No. This is the short answer.
You know what? You have to be focused. We go with residential homes. The vast majority of homes are retrofits. Of course, you have new builds, but we're really focusing the large existing household stock. And we're doing this with direct-to-consumer business. Who knows? Maybe that's a great opportunity in the future to be more B2B and go into another direction. But right now, there's more than enough to do when it comes to normal houses.
Any questions from the room? Yeah, please.
Thank you. David Kjellberg, Naturskyddsföreningen, Swedish Society for Nature Conservation. Thank you for the presentation. One of the weaknesses with the heat pumps are the cooling agents or the fluids in the system that are often potent greenhouse gases. Could you say something about that? And also you were talking about the whole process from production to consumer, but the last step when the heat pumps have reached their lifetime.
Thank you for that question. Very important. And you have different types of refrigerants to run your heat pumps. And I'm happy to say that we have chosen a natural refrigerant called R290, which is basically propane. It has very low greenhouse warming potential, and it's a non-hazardous gas. I think there's a big debate in Europe, and we welcome that, where you can move away from refrigerants that either damage the atmosphere or has health hazards. And we have gone straight with the natural refrigerant, and I think the industry will be forced in that direction over time. Discussions is high on the agenda in the EU on this topic.
And I guess we also want to develop, a lifelong relationship. So hopefully in 20 years or 25 years, we'll be able to take the product back and put in the new one. And that's very much part of the, creating a recycling loop.
Yeah.
Any other questions in the room? Yes. Just coming with the mic.
Michael LePage from New Scientist magazine in the UK. A question may be relevant at this particular moment. Will you be selling heat pumps that are also capable of doing air conditioning in the summer?
You know, a heat pump is a little bit like a refrigerator. Depending which direction you run it, you can actually produce cooling. So our products are able to provide cooling, and then of course you need to distribute that cooling. So if you want to do that, you need to install, for example, a fan coil. It's like a radiator. So yes, that will be an accessory in our product portfolio. But I would say I think the main usage for this is going to be for heating purposes for now, rather than cooling. But if you go to Italy, for example, life is hard to live without cooling. It's very important in the summertime. So yes.
Thank you. I've got a few questions that are similar here, one from Ian and Neil. How will consumers engage with Aira, and how will it be sold?
Yeah, as a direct-to-consumer company, we're really going to make sure that, first of all, we have a high visibility online. You're going to find out everything about our products, how they work. But this is a complex product, so we're going to have a hybrid sales model. We will make sure that our own sales staff, they really make in-home visits, making sure that you get a well-designed solution for every single home, and try to explain the concept. Especially in the beginning, it is important that you meet the customer. So we're going to work with a lot of consumer marketing, attracting customers directly, because this is not a product sales. We're really selling a service to customers. And our own sales force goes in hand in a smooth, seamless experience with our installation force. And I think more important as well is that we think this is going to be a high engagement solution. That's why, as Harald said, we are spending so much effort in making the customer experience and working on the digital side. So it's not only how you discover and explore the project during the sales phase, but you really engage and live with our product, can manage to operate it and optimize it for your specific needs.
I think we also think that an important thing is also going to be to create partnerships, to build awareness. I mean, if you look, for instance, at retail banks, we think is going to be an important channel. Because in a way, this is something that is, it's very connected to your house. So I think we will be looking at, different types of financing models. But clearly, mortgage extension is something which makes a ton of sense. Because I think if you install the product, you actually increase the value of your property and you lower your operating cost. So we think that, working in close partnership with, for instance, retail banks and other types of, other types of partners, like Svea Solar would be, also with solar players, could be very interesting.
Great, thank you. We have lots of questions coming in. How much is the investment? And then the question goes on, a subscription model, what would a typical monthly cost for, say, a gas boiler replacement be? That's from Neil.
Shall I take the monthly cost and you can talk about the investment?
Okay.
I think that's a good
investment
mix.
in
the
the
investment
product,
in the product
in the
for
product.
the consumer.
I think you can take it.
Okay, okay. No, but it of course depends on what solution you get, what's the size of the house. But
a country,
subsidy. Yeah, a subsidy, everything. But if you take a typical UK household, I think we can look at as a consumer that you pay maybe £75 per month for getting a heat pump installed and ready to use. And I think that's quite affordable for something that costs maybe 15 to 25,000 upfront.
And it's helping to eliminate your £2,500
gas bill completely overnight.
Jeremy has a question here. Could you talk a bit about the different European subsidy schemes?
Yeah, they vary country by country. They're quite generous. If you take the UK, you get £5,000. And Italy, you get a 65% discount as a tax credit. And Germany, you get 35%. or even more, depending on what initiatives you do. So it looks a bit different in every country. But I think this is just in the beginning. We think that the subsidies, it's not instrumental for our business model. I think especially the monthly payment model, we can of course continue to help customers, but it certainly helps, and we think they are here to stay for quite a long time. Because as you saw from the numbers, this transformation has just begun, and it has to be accelerated further.
I think more important is actually to look over the way that energy is being priced. So if you take for the UK, for instance, if you look at the wholesale price of electricity, it's roughly, I mean, depending on the underlying wholesale price, but it's maybe 35%, 40%. Then you have like a large renewable tax levied on electricity. So by the time you add these together, you get a pretty high number. But I think people are also looking at today, how can you actually, without changing the consumer economics, I don't think any government would be interested in sort of like levying additional taxes on that 2,500 tax bill. But if you look underneath, I mean, a typical household has an electricity component for your household needs, and then you have a heating bill. But I think, within that, it would make a ton of sense, to shift some of that tax burden actually to what creates the problem. So I think that, there are also, I think, initiatives, to figure out, how to stimulate. The second thing is that in the UK, for instance, it's levied on a variable basis. But in a way, you could say, if I install a heat pump, what happens is I basically double my energy consumption. And it kind of doesn't make sense that then the government should actually collect twice the renewable tax bill. So I think there are some things which is maybe even more important than subsidies, but sort of making a fair basically way of charging for electricity. Because going back, we had super low gas prices, and in a way you could say artificially high electricity prices because of perverse incentives essentially.
Great, thank you. We're going to have to wrap our questions there because I know that we need to get you to the climate conference. So if anybody in the room does have questions, there are a number of us around from Aira, so we are very happy to answer your questions. For those on the broadcast, we have captured those questions and we'll come back to you individually. So just to really wrap up, we have, for people in the room, we have some really good demos from our Aira colleagues outside where you can learn more about the product hardware, the product software. You can find out more about our factory and also run through the 5 new websites that we've launched today. And you can also check out on our website, thank you very much, Martin, we have created and spent, this is a labour of love here, the European Heat Map Report. We recognise that there is a lot of data and statistics, and this, I hope, will be a valuable guide, particularly for analysts, journalists, those in academia, to take you through what the current situation is across Europe and what can be done to address it. So please do grab a copy of that. Finally, as I said, we've launched airahome.com. You can also follow us on our socials, and that actually was a question from Gavin in the UK. When can we start posting this on social media? You can absolutely do that right from now, and we're very happy to shout very proud about Aira. And then finally, for our journalists, there will be a full press pack available for you. The press release has already gone out, and if there's anything else you need, please follow up on our email address. And really, I would just like to say a huge thank you, Harald, Martin. It's been an absolute pleasure to be here. I started this journey a year ago, and to think we're here launching and announcing, I'm super, super proud. Thank you for being a wonderful crowd in Stockholm. Thank you for joining us online. And I think that is a wrap here.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Yeah.